motivation. Jonas, Andrew-Phillip tells me avoid desperation. There's two facts to rebuild a nation, to make us strong. Enhance a bond full of brothers and sisters. Tell the future we can build whatever we wish to. Put your mind on the map, eyes on the prize. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe.
Hello kings and queens, the Waste Mantle winner Jonas Andrew-Phillip here today. And today we've got yet another episode of the Let's Talk Facts podcast. And right now, I can't say this seriously because we have a legend, and the fact that I'm in her presence is sensational to me. So please, could you introduce yourself and the amazing stuff that you do?
Wow, what an amazing introduction. My name is Divine Mankumbani, and I like to consider myself a youth activist, a mental health ambassador, and all things in between. I just like to advocate for us as young people and for marginalized groups in society.
Amazing. And can you remind the people also how old you are for us as well?
17.
So not to patronize you, because I'm only 2 years older than you, only 2 years, right? But still, the fact that people, and I said this on the live stream yesterday as well, the fact that so many people cast our generation saying that we're lazy with this, with that, but we're so switched on, we're doing stuff at such young ages, and it's crazy, to be honest. So I just want to commend you, and also to anybody that's watching that does similar stuff to you, or maybe things that I do that are around our age group too, that don't allow these people, and I'm not going to say adults because it's not all adults, but don't allow these people to put you down or generalize your generation, because we should be building each other up and not allowing that to manifest within us. So yeah. And just to get into this now, Divine, my first question for you is, do you feel that you are destined to do what you currently do? And if so, why?
That is definitely such a powerful question. I think yes, in a sense that it took me a long time to acknowledge what I wanted to do and to get to where I am today. And so it took a lot of prayer. It took a lot of research to finally figure out what I wanted to do and whether or not this is exactly what I want to do or progressing professionally. I'm still not 100% sure. However, I feel content and I feel motivated and powerful and strong when I'm doing what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And I just love being around other like-minded young people and networking with other people in industries and fields that I may want to progress in the future. And so I definitely feel that with God as my witness, that this is what I'm destined to do. And if it's not, I have absolutely no doubt that I will get to where I need to be through the power of the Lord, because that's basically my main driving force.
And you mentioned there that you feel content. You mentioned various words, but you said content as well. So by content, are you talking content as in you're happy where you are right now and you're proud of yourself, but you aren't satisfied, or are you satisfied regardless?
I would definitely say for my age, I'm satisfied, because obviously you could always do more. So I don't want to feel as if I am doing the most and I'm like the utmost influential. However, in terms of like doing A-levels and having school alongside what I'm doing, I'm very satisfied and content in this stage of my life. However, obviously, as I progress and as I get older, I would want to do more and be more for young people, for people around me, for wider society.
That's facts, that's facts as well. Because even I think that to myself, I say to myself, and I said this in the live yesterday, I said, look, people do enjoy my content. They enjoy what I do. They're happy with what I do. They're proud of what I do, because a lot of people that follow me have seen me from when I first started about in late 2019 to now. So they've seen the development. But in my mind, I still know there's much more to do. And it's still good, the fact that people still give you praise, but also constructive feedback. And that's another thing you were speaking about with a group of like-minded people, because that will be good for you. And could you explain to the audience why you personally feel that being surrounded by a like-minded group of people is positive?
I think it's the whole thing of like, you are who your friends are. Obviously, take that with a grain of salt. But when you surround yourself with people who motivate you, who inspire you, who teach you, you're going to not only learn from them, but teach them and basically develop your character, and just have an environment where you're always growing, always learning new ideas, new ways of doing things. And I think there's something so powerful about that. So that's my main reason why surrounding yourself with like-minded people is so important for personal growth and just for growth in your community as well, and how you can impact your own community.
And I remember a couple of years ago, I heard a quote, and this is quite a deep quote. It said that if you aren't growing in life, you're dying. So essentially what that meant was, if you aren't getting better, you may not understand, but you're actually dying. Because I think even our brains, and don't quote me on this, guys, because I'm not a scientist, but I think if you don't learn stuff consistently, you're more likely to get, what's that disease when you're older and you forget?
Dementia?
Yeah, that's it. I think that's what it was. I think, don't quote me, but I think that's what it was. But I wouldn't be surprised, because for me personally, I always want to learn at least one new thing every day. It's like the compound effect. If I improve 1% every day, then 365 days later in the year, I can look back and be like, "Oh, Jonas, you've grown so much since then." And for me personally, and I'm gonna say this, like I'm just gonna say this point blank period. I don't like being with people that always kiss my ass and say, "You're doing amazing, Jonas, you're doing this, you're doing that." So would you say that in terms of like-minded people, you also mean within that people that will still pull you up and give you constructive feedback when you might be slacking or you're missing something out?
100%. I think that's one important attribute that you should look for in a friend, because when your friends are encouraging you, it's lovely, but if they're not going to be there to check you when you're doing things wrong, or just give you constructive criticism on how to improve, maybe not your personality, but just the way you act or the way you do things, it's very, very important and very beneficial, because in life, you're not going to have people who are just going to be praising you all day long. You're going to have maybe a boss or teachers, people who are going to give you constructive criticism. So if it starts in your safety net, in your friendship group, and you can take it from them, then honestly, you can take it from anybody else.
And I think even with friendship groups, that's something where when I was growing up, especially after year 9, I was part of a friendship group that I had since I was in primary school. And just the way that they were moving, I was like, I can't be surrounded by you guys forever. Like to this day, I've still got love for them, but there's still that fragment of just, I don't know what it is, but ever since we even went to the same college when I was in college in year 12 for a year, we even went to the same college, and it was still like we were calm with each other, but it was still like we used to be tighter. We used to have mad love for each other since 2006. But because of what they were doing and how my life was going, I had to say to myself, I've got to leave and chill by myself for a bit. That's why in year 9, I was chilling by myself for most of year 9, year 10 a bit as well. And I still got love for them, but I had to say to myself, if I really want to grow and develop, I got to take myself out of this situation and really learn more about myself. Yeah. In the short term, it was tough because I was by myself. People used to say, Jonas, you got no friends, do all this stuff. When you're in school, that stuff matters. But I was like, no, it's cool. It didn't get to me, but I was like, no, it's cool, because in the long term, this may pay off. And it has paid off, because I wouldn't be the Jonas I am today, the independent person that can be interdependent too, because that's important, if I didn't take that calculated risk. And I want to ask you, do you feel that your friendship group can shape who you are in the future?
I think yes and no, but I'm gonna argue more for yes, because I think, like I was saying before, the people you surround yourself with are gonna have a very big impact on the type of person you are. And so if you surround yourself with like-minded people, people who want to progress, people who want to do well in the future, people who have ambitions, you're going to kind of take on that same energy. Whereas if you surround yourselves with people who, let's put this in like a secondary school environment, who don't really care about their GCSEs, who don't care about exams, who don't really want anything more than just, you know, leaving school as soon as possible, which isn't a negative thing, but it's a thing where if you just maybe don't have ambition or don't have that, okay, let me just do this now, it might not be where I want to go, because being good at academics isn't the only way you can succeed in life. However, you know that you have to do this to now move on to the next stage. And if you don't even have that determination or have that self-discipline to be like, I might not want to do this in the future, but I'm just going to pattern my exams now, so at least I have a good advantage in life, it can really impact you. Because if you're not around those people who feel as if they should, you know, be doing well or take certain things seriously, even outside of like school, then that can really go on to you. Let's say, for example, you're chilling with people who are maybe involved in illegal activity. After a while, if you don't say no to those people, you can easily find yourself doing the things that they're doing because you're just around them and you're not condemning their behavior. And so I do think your friendship group can have a massive impact, but it's a thing where if you nip it in the bud, like kind of what you said earlier about how in year 9 you're chilling by yourself, it's a thing where you now know, okay, this is not for me, and you can move on from that. So I would definitely say yes, that your friendship group can impact you in a massive way, but it's just for you to like decide whether or not you're gonna put up with the negativity or you're gonna go away from it. And if you're around positive people, it's more likely that you will be a positive person.
And just to say this right now, you are a positive person, and you already know this probably, but you are a positive person. And you actually, for people that don't know, Divine has various social media platforms where she advocates for young people, for marginalized groups. Sorry if I'm saying it wrong, but you do amazing stuff for young people. I want to ask, before I get into that, the next question I have, was your surroundings the reason that you decided to start these social media platforms, or was it just something within you that you wanted to do?
I would say definitely my surroundings, because people encouraged me, helped me, told me whether or not this might work or this might not work. And it definitely helped me to kind of understand what I needed to do and how I needed to do it. And so I kind of knew that I wanted to do something along these lines, but people encouraging you and like pushing you to do things definitely helps you to go ahead and do them. And so the people I surrounded myself with, their encouragement, their persistence really helped me to be like, okay, let me actually try and get involved in decision making or mental health and activism, etc.
And that's the thing. I think even for me recently, because when you're young, and everyone would blame school. I'm not gonna do that thing where people blame school, right? I wasn't even a fan of school when I was in school, but I'm not gonna do the thing of blaming it, right? But when we're young, we're kind of subconsciously taught, because we have a conscious mind and subconscious mind. A conscious mind is what we're aware of. Our subconscious mind are things we aren't aware of. So people planted seeds in our subconscious mind without us even knowing, to not have difficult conversations about, for example, pollution or marginalized groups, racism, mental health. And I think that's why so many people don't like talking about it, because I was always somebody that used to think about it to myself, but only talk about it with certain people. And since I left my apprenticeship, I've done things where I've been around people on a professional level who, before every session we do something, or every meeting, we have a conversation about it. And at first I was like, oh, are we going to do this every session, man? Like, are we going to do this every session? It's a bit like, but to be comfortable in life, you need to be in your discomfort zone. So I was in those terms, within those conversations, because I was saying it to myself and some of my friends and a few family members, I was comfortable. But Jonas, why don't you have this conversation with a stranger now? That made me uncomfortable. Because how are they going to feel? Do I need to tweak my words and what I do? And I feel like there's a lot of fear when it comes to this kind of stuff, because even me, I was like, I just don't like talking about that kind of stuff with people I don't know. But then I had to say to myself, actually, you need to have these conversations about stuff like this. But the reason is, and to be honest, out of all of them, pollution, mental health, I can talk about those things, climate change. I can talk about those things with anybody, but it's more talking about race with people that aren't Black or Asian. It's more of that, because I don't want to say something that will trigger them or make someone feel a type of way. So how do you navigate that while you talk about the topics you talk about on social media?
I think people on social media maybe realize that you should never dilute yourself or make yourself more digestible to make others feel comfortable. Because if we think about it, racism is an uncomfortable topic. None of us like to go through racism. We don't choose racism. And so if anything, we should be the most uncomfortable when topics about racism come up, because it affects us. But we don't have the time to be uncomfortable because we have to speak about it. Otherwise, how can we navigate through life, or how can we establish when things are racist, or when we have like racism directly affecting us? Because racism indirectly affects us every single day, whether or not you realize it. As a Black or person in the BAME community, racism can definitely affect you indirectly. Not every form of racism is just someone coming to say a racial slur to your face. Do you know what I mean? It's like institutions and history, etc. And so I think I just had to teach myself to not care. And obviously you have to think about your audience and how they should take it. But at the end of the day, racism is a very deep topic. It's a very, I don't want to say nerve-wracking, but it's not easy for us to talk about racism as people who are affected by it. And so when I'm telling you about racism, if you feel some type of way, or you're getting offended, or you feel uncomfortable, that's not my problem, because at the end of the day, I have to tell my truth and I have to tell my story in hopes to educate and to help others identify what racism is, or what negative stereotypes and things are. And so, yeah, I think the main thing was just realizing that I think genuinely I am quite a thoughtful person. So I would think things through before I said it. And I used to look at other people who weren't as thoughtful when they spoke about, let me say, touchy issues, and think, why would you say it like that? Like, how is anyone going to take you seriously once you're shouting in their face? But at the end of the day, when you're facing something and when it affects almost every single aspect of your life, you don't have time to think about, how can I say this in a way that you can digest and feel comfortable? If it makes you feel uncomfortable, that's not my problem, because it's my truth, it's my story. And so I think through looking at other people and seeing how they spoke about things made me realize you should always just tell your truth and say it how you mean it. Because at the end of the day, racism can make you angry, it can make you sad, it can make you hurt. And all these emotions should not be diluted so that people can consume it and feel comfortable whilst doing it. If it makes you feel uncomfortable, that's really not my biggest concern. It's more trying to let you know what my truth is and trying to educate on how we can change things and how we can be more productive in society.
I love what you said there. Because with even me personally, I had because I'm dark skinned, obviously from day dot, I had blick slurs, various all the time. So I'm used to it, yeah. And even some white kids would try to say it, and some Asian kids, and I'd be like, who the hell do you think you are? Like, and it's the ones that try to act quote unquote Black. You know how everyone says you can that rubbish, you can act Black. These guys, Black, they think they're acting Black because they're acting bad and all that, these stupid stereotypes and stuff, right? But this year especially, I've heard so many people say, because as Black people, we're taught to conceal our hurt and our pain and everything like that. Right?
Exactly.
So I remember once, right, and I'm going to use stories from this year. I remember when I was doing something for UK Youth, and I was doing a little recording for them for their Young Black campaign. Everyone check that out if you haven't. And I remember because we were doing a pitch and it was mainly to a whiteboard. So I was like, I want to speak my truth, but I don't want to trigger them. But then after it, the person who was doing it with me from UK Youth said, Jonas, like, don't filter yourself. This is your pain. This is what you've been through. The fact that you're not sharing it because you've been taught to not share it and just get on with it is showing that this needs to be said. Bro, that's true, you know, and it's 100% true. And even with the race card as well, and I've been saying this from day dot. People always say don't always pull the race card, but sadly, the most of the time, and nearly all of the time, it is due to the race card. I remember once in my first job, I never ever used to speak back to my manager. She would chat so much stuff I didn't agree with, right? But I used to just leave it. You should just leave it. And then one time she said something and it was ridiculous. I just like, that's not true. And I walked off because I went to go finish the job I was doing because she called me back and I said, no, it's not true. Then I left. Then she said, come back here. I came back and she was like, oh, and I was like, okay, cool. All right, thanks. And then we went. I didn't say in any aggressive way. I just said, okay, cool, fine. Next thing you know, apparently she's calling me aggressive. And I was like, oh, it's classic, the black people. Classic. They love to say it. But this is just more of it as well, because as you said, it indirectly affects us every day. Me personally, I've been looking back at my life and been like, was that thing that happened to me racially charged without me knowing it? Even from when I was really young, I think about that. And although I'm very content with where my life is right now, I still think about that stuff. It doesn't make me think, oh man, I can't do this, I can't do that. I don't see race.
Yeah.
It is a barrier, but I don't see it as a barrier because in my mind, even when I was young, I remember when I was excluded one time and I was sitting outside the SLT's office. It was in year 11. And that teacher came up to me and she was just annoying me. And I was just like, why do you keep coming back? Can you leave me alone? Because sometimes they actually make it worse.
Right.
I was like, can you get out of it? And then she was like, Jonas, you're a black boy. You have to work 10 times harder. And in my head, I was like, look, man, I don't care, man. Look, I'm going to work 10 times harder regardless. That this whole black, I'm not using this as an excuse. I could, but regardless, I'm going to get where I want to be because I've seen other black men become billionaires. And I'm not saying I want all the money and stuff, but billionaires are very, very high in the food chain. So if they can do it, why can't I? I've never been a person that, and this isn't to slight anyone or anything like that, but I've never needed to see a black person doing something for me to believe that I can do it. I think differently a lot, but the reason is because I used to get bullied a lot. So then, as I said in the live stream again yesterday, I had to believe in myself so much. I had to believe in myself so much that I could survive another day and get through to do more stuff. Right? So now it's just innate and it's within me that I believe in myself. That's why I've never needed it. But I've noticed that it's the people that have their parents kind of mollycoddling them and being nice to them and buying them everything that they want that really struggle with self-doubt. Not everyone, but the majority. It's mainly the people that had a tough childhood that don't really have it and they're a bit more fixed. I've noticed. But what do you think about that?
I think that's a very important point. And I don't know if I've ever deeped that, but yeah, I would agree. I would say that I think this whole thing of like, you know, getting out of the mud or getting out of the hood, etc. I think it does kind of build up your character and it makes you stronger because it's like, how do I describe it? Like, this is like the lowest I can go, if that makes sense. So I can only go up from here. But if you've already had that and you're still not satisfied, it's like, well, I'm happy, I have money, I get whatever I want, but I'm not happy, but I have money and get what I want. So how does that make sense? Whereas when you kind of come from maybe disadvantages or you have things against you, maybe you're from a marginalized community, you already have thick skin. And so you're like, these things don't even affect me anymore. And I think what you said about race not being a barrier is really important because obviously when we look into life, there's so many barriers when it comes to race and we can't dispute that. However, when you think of it as a barrier, I know it sounds kind of weird, but it can really limit you. And so you kind of have to almost imagine as if your race isn't a barrier and just throw yourself out there. Sometimes it might come back and bite you and, you know, you'll have to just take that as a loss and then move on and hope for something better to come. But if you dwell on the fact that race is a barrier and that you can't do anything because of your race, that will really limit how successful you are. And so that's why, although it's there and we can't dispute that, I think it's more of a mental thing to just believe that it's almost not there and that it shouldn't limit you. Though in society and in like workplace, etc., it can, but just thinking that it can't and just applying to different jobs or go into different opportunities, even if you don't get it, just keep going and keep doing it and almost disregard the fact that your race is a barrier.
Exactly. And I gotta say this again just to preface my comments, because a lot of people like to accuse me of saying stuff that I didn't say. So guys, because a lot of people do this as well with people. They say that someone said something when they really didn't. But I'm just gonna say, guys, Divine and I are not saying that race is not a barrier. We know that there's institutional, systematic
of
racism.
Course.
We all know this, but what we're saying, and as Divine amazingly and eloquently said, it's more mental. If you keep saying to yourself, because you're black, that's what you're gonna think all the time. But if you just say, maybe I just need to be better, because that's what I do. I didn't get that because I'm not good enough, and I need to get better. That's what I say to myself. Because it's gonna get to the point where they can be as racist as hell, yeah. But if you're too good for it, they're not gonna say no. They'll be stupid to say no. So if you get so sick at what you do, they have no choice. Doesn't matter if you're black or Asian, they have no choice but to take you, because you're gonna be making them more money, or bringing them more clients, or giving them more work clout. So this is what people want. They want work clout as well.
It's true.
They want clout in the office. Like, office politics are crazy, man. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Another question is, why do you think that so many people would rather use social media to post pictures rather than to use it to educate, empower, and entertain like you do?
I think there's no problem whatsoever to just use social media as like an escape and just have fun on it. Because, for example, TikTok's one of my main platforms in terms of like speaking about different issues that are going on in the world. And sometimes I just want to go on TikTok and laugh. Like, I don't want to think about the negative things that I'm facing. And so when people do post purely just to like entertain, or purely just to just show their lives or do something fun or funny, that's 100% okay. And I think that this whole big like expectation that Black people specifically should always be speaking out about every single racial incident that's ever happened, and it's mentally draining and it's very traumatic, and I don't think people understand that, especially non-Black people. Of course, I feel like if you are Black, you should advocate for your community and you should stand in solidarity. However, this expectation that sometimes doesn't even come from ourselves, comes from non-Black people, and they will be commenting like, why don't you speak about this, or why don't you do this? But it's like, it's actually mentally draining, and it sometimes becomes too much, because every single day another Black person gets shot by the police. And although we're Black British, if I went to America right now and I was in a confrontation with the police, they're not going to say, oh, you're Black and British, so I'm not going to shoot you. At the end of the day, you're Black. So when one Black person is wrongfully killed, every Black person feels it. And so it's so painful to turn on the news or to go on TikTok or go on social media and see another life is taken. Even this morning, I just saw that last night when we saw the victory of George Floyd's trial, a young girl was shot dead by the police, 16 years old. It's crazy. On the same day that people are celebrating a victory, another person has lost their life, another family is in distress. And it's crazy. And it's so like, it's just this whole up and down for us as Black people. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. And I feel like we're taking more L's than we are W's. And it's crazy. And I think this is just the beginning. I was even posting yesterday on my Snapchat and saying, I don't know if I'm being too hopeful by saying like, maybe now through this trial, more trials will be taken seriously, more juries will have a guilty verdict when it comes to police wrongfully killing Black people. But it's just something that we have to hope for, and we have to stay positive, and we have to pray for. And it just gets too much. So I do 100% understand why some people just generally just want to post on Instagram. Because, for example, I have 2 Instagram like public pages. One where I just literally post like just pictures of me doing whatever, like on a day out, or just, you know, normal Instagram pics. And then another one where I'm starting to rebuild now is like my activism page, where I post things to do with activism. And so I'd be lying if sometimes I just don't want to go on Instagram and just, you know, look at, you know, hair videos, makeup videos, and just indulge in that rather than politics or race or heavy, deep discussions. And so I don't fault any young person or any person in general who just wants to post what they want to post and what makes them feel best. However, I do feel as if you should still be pushing the voices who are posting things that are educational or helpful to marginalized communities. Because if you're solely using your platform to just post yourself and show like your life, I do think I don't want to tell anyone what to post, but I do think, for example, last year during the Black Lives Matter protests, I was looking at people who weren't posting about it, and I was thinking, read the room. Like, people don't want to see your bikini photo right now. Like, sis, rest. We actually want you to say something impactful. You have an audience and they're going to listen to you, so why don't you use your platform to do something positive for marginalized groups? And so it's crazy, but ultimately, of course, you can post what you want, do what you want, and sometimes it's just nice to. However, just be conscious and be aware of the world that we live in, and push voices, even if you don't want to do it, push the voices of people who are educating and who are making a difference when it comes to politics, when it comes to decision making, when it comes to, I don't know, social changes, etc.
I agree with that, because even me myself, I have 2 Instagram pages too, and now my other one, where I just post pictures of myself. That one I haven't been on since October. I haven't posted that one since October. But that's mainly because of COVID and the fact that I haven't had trims or anything, so there's no point. I'm not going to myself and put on my Insta without a trim. I've done that a couple of times actually. But that was when I was in college. I was a different Jonas. But I do that too. Like, even on my other Instagram, I follow meme pages like Andrew-Phillip and it's street blogs. I still follow all of comedy on my business one actually. But sometimes I just go on there and I'm just for a laugh. But then sometimes I'm just like, I'm not in the mood to hear these stupid jokes, man. And then I'm just going to learn stuff. So when I want to learn stuff, or even I follow the NBA and I follow Arsenal, I should unfollow them actually after what they did. They're trying to make some Super League. I should unfollow them for that. But
to be fair, I did see that they're pulling out. I don't know if that's 100% true, but I saw that all this, I don't know if it was 4 or 6 teams are going to be pulling out of the Super League. But I saw that Chelsea and I think Man United have formally written a letter to withdraw. But I don't know if the other clubs will follow. But yeah, just wanted to put it out there.
They apologized. It was a mistake.
Oh, okay.
You know what? Just buy some players and get us back in the Champions League. That's what I want. then I apologize for the last 15 years of pain. That's what I want to know, because ever since we lost the Champions League final, it's been downhill. But let's forget about that. Let's forget about that, because that's painful, man. Arsenal, oh my gosh. But yeah, so even me, I have 2 pages also, and I feel that even what you said about how people are still posting bikini pictures and that, when what was going on, it's kind of mad, because I even remember on Blackout Tuesday or Friday or Thursday, or was it Blackout?
Yeah, Blackout Tuesday.
Yeah, Blackout Tuesday. I remember there were still people posting pictures of themselves, and everyone was just in the comments. I wasn't involved. I just saw someone post, and I was like, oh, I wonder what the comment section is going to be saying about this. I went in the comment section, everyone was grilling them, and I was like, oh my God, it was crazy. But it's true, because sometimes, like, with what's going on, there isn't time to post stuff like this. Like, sometimes it's like you need to be mindful of how other people are feeling in the current moment, and then say, is what I'm posting right now really going to be good for people to see? So they really want to see this right now.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to hold back sometimes and not do it. And I feel that nowadays, with pages like us two, right, we need to ensure that we're both educated and entertaining as well. And also, because if we're just educated, that's going to get boring. If we're just entertaining, we're not going to be really influencing. And if we're empowering, if we're just empowering people, we're going to get bored and say, who are these guys are just talking. So we've got to do those 3 E's of that. And I'm not coming back to a workshop, actually. That sounds like a good workshop. I'm not coming to a workshop. But yeah, and what's like something else? And also, I feel that a lot of people respect those kind of pages these days, especially I think during COVID, everyone's become, I hate to use the word, but they've become more woke with stuff. So I feel like people respect that even more nowadays, because a lot's happened in the last, technically, let's just say since 2020, this decade, let's just say this decade. A lot's happened. A lot of people have changed their mentalities on things. Even me, myself, I've changed my mentality. And that's crazy. And now I'm excited for this one, Divine. That segment of the episode. And the segment is 10 years down the line. This is the first time I'm doing this. So what I'd like you to do is give me and give the audience an acceptance speech for an award that you may win in the future. It could be a real award or a fake award, but we just want to hear how you're feeling, what you achieved, all this kind of stuff. So basically, I'm asking you to tell me, what do you want to have done in 10 years' time? So yeah, take it away.
Okay. I think I'm going to make up a fake award and say there's an award for being wait, isn't that fake? It could have, okay, anyways, I'm just gonna say it. Being Black, influential, and a woman. And I don't tend to write down my speeches, so I'm literally just gonna go with the flow, but this is exactly how I think it would go. I would like to thank God. God is the main reason why I am here. Without prayer, without his wisdom, without his grace, I wouldn't have been able to achieve what I've been able to achieve. Without him placing people in my life that were there to help me prosper, to grow, to teach me, to guide me, I wouldn't be where I am today. I would like to thank my parents for encouraging me, for giving me the best life they could possibly give me, for sacrificing their own lives to ensure that I was able to reach my full potential and give back to them as they have given to me my whole life. I would like to thank my friends, my family, people who have had my back since day one, people who have believed in me, encouraged me, criticized me when necessary to help me to get to where I am today. And I would like to thank my community, my Blackness, my womanhood, because all those categories, if I can say, have helped me develop as a person, has helped me understand other people, has helped me be the best person I can be and reach my full potential without thinking that the barriers were even there. The barriers were there, definitely, but being able to overcome them has been the greatest achievement of my life. And without my circle, without people around me, without networking, without my constituency, without the opportunities I've got from living where I do live, I wouldn't have been able to get to where I am today, wouldn't have been able to inspire other people, to teach other people, to learn from other people. And I just hope that any other young Black female specifically, but anybody listening today knows that even though there are barriers in your way, you can overcome those barriers if you work hard, believe in yourself, and trust in the process. It will not be easy, but it will be worth it. And I just want to say thank you to every single person who has ever motivated me, encouraged me, and stood by my side to help me get to where I am today. Thank you, everyone. This is something so dangerous, especially as Black people, to forget where you came from and to distance yourself from your past, because ultimately who you were in the past helped how am I wording this? Get you to where you are today and mold you into the person you are today. And I can't remember the exact fact, but it was something like, basically Black people make up the majority of the hip hop industry, which obviously isn't really surprising. But if I don't, I hope I'm saying this right, but it was basically along the lines of, if we were at the forefront of all the money, basically, if we were at the forefront of all the, I don't want to say like production, like producing the music, because you obviously see a lot of Black producers. So basically, the fact is, if we were able to make all the profit, essentially, it's because it's like $1 billion industry, we would be able to reimburse that money back into the Black community to actually help millions of Black people. This was specifically African Americans, but millions of African Americans actually have like an advantage in life and actually have financial support. I hope I worded that right, and I hope it made some sort of sense. But basically, that I think us as Black people need to ensure that when we are getting into positions of power and influence, we are hiring other Black people. And I'm not saying to just hire them for the sake of hiring them. If they're not fit for the job, they're not fit for the job. I'm not saying to discriminate other people because they are not Black. However, I think it's important that if you can, seek to hire other Black people, seek to get other Black people, into higher positions, seek to take them up with you, because ultimately that's how we will be able to build and hopefully build a wider network of generational wealth for Black people, so that our money is going down in history, and it's like going down in history. Does that even really make sense? Go like trickling down to the next generations, basically, so that we ensure that we are always financially aware and stable, and that we're transcending that onto the next generations to come, to just give us a foot in life. Because honestly, money makes the world go round. And although it cannot necessarily make you happy, it can add to your happiness if you're financially secure. So I think it is important for us to be thinking about building generational wealth from now, basically.
100%, 100%. And even before I ask, I got 2 questions left I'm going to ask you. And before I ask the first one, even just to add to what you said also, generational wealth, for those that don't know, it doesn't just have to be money as well. It could be knowledge, positive
Thank
habits,
you. Good point.
positive family traditions, all this kind of stuff can be generational wealth. And again, it's all leading towards your happiness, because there's various different types of wealth. There's time wealth, social wealth, physical wealth, psychological wealth. There's tons. Like, it's not just money, but a lot of people think wealth is something you can pass down and you inherit. Being rich is something that you create. So a lot of us could potentially be rich, but we're not going to be wealthy because we didn't inherit it. However, that our kids and grandkids and their grandkids inherit our wealth, and that's what we've got to be doing. And just to link everything that you just said together, the main thing that popped in my head was to ask this question, and it's do you feel that as the Black community we actually help ourselves enough?
That is such an interesting question. And I don't think it's a yes or no. I think it's more of just like how you describe help. So for me, I think that as Black people, we have so many things that divide us that aren't negative. So for example, Africa is a huge continent. We have different languages, different facial features, different hair textures, different cultures, everything, food. Do you know what I mean? And that's a good thing, and that's a powerful thing. But sometimes it can almost be used to separate us. Like, you're from here, we're from here. But at the end of the day, we're all Black, and we all need to be looking at the bigger picture. This kind of reminds me of like the plantain argument. Because a lot of like West African countries in particular would say plantain, although I'm sure that they have ways of saying it in their native languages. However, obviously Caribbeans, and I'm going to say specifically Jamaicans, because those are the people who I know say plantain. And it's just like, obviously when it's funny and when it's lighthearted, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it is what it is. But when people get so deeply offended, it's like, guys, we're eating the same thing. It doesn't matter. The pronunciation is not going to change the taste ultimately. Do you know what I mean? Like, and so I think when it comes to things like that, it's like, let's just look at the bigger picture of things. We can just embrace each other's cultures and also embrace that we all have Black culture. And that we all have similarities because we are Black. And also the Jollof argument between Nigeria and Ghana specifically, that one can get very techie. And me as a Congolese babe, I firmly stay away from the argument. I do not have an opinion. I like both of the Jollof rices and I would eat both of them. But yeah, so I don't know. I think the reason why I brought them up was just to highlight that obviously we have differences, but ultimately we're all Black and we all fall under that category, and we all should therefore embrace that community and that culture of being Black. And once we kind of, embrace those differences and come together as Black people, we also need to include Black trans people, Black queer people, Black disabled people into our fight, because I don't want to generalize. Okay, no, I'm going to have to generalize, but the Black community can be quite homophobic. And I don't know if that's due to culture, traditions, religion. I feel like it's a mix of everything. And it's very dangerous, and it's a very dangerous rhetoric to kind of have, obviously. And so when we're fighting for Black people, we cannot forget the other Black people. We can't just think of cis straight Black men or cis straight Black women. We have to think about everyone in our community, and we have to advocate for everyone in our community, because it's crazy to me that you can be fighting for the Black community but then be transphobic, and when you see a Black trans person you feel as if they're less than. It's like, we're all Black at the end of the day, and we should all have that sense of community and that sense of help when we see each other, when we come together. And so I think the Black community, we need to help ourselves more when it comes to including all types of Black people, not just the straight Black man or straight Black woman. And sometimes even Black women in general are left out of the argument or aren't seen as, as important in lots of discussions, due to like the patriarchy, for example, and us having to be submissive and just like accept everything the man says. And there's so many books that I need to read. I'm not a big reader, which is very embarrassing to say. I'm very disappointed in myself. I want to read more, and I know I can read more. And I've just seen so many books like Black sexual politics, or can I even remember the names? This is very, very unfortunate. But basically, when I've read, seen reviews of the books, they're talking back to like slavery or back to like pre-colonial Africa and like what it meant to be African before it even, like before Blackness was a thing, before being Black was a thing, before race was created. And it kind of puts in perspective that we are also similar, but we are also different, and different doesn't mean bad. And that's one thing that I cannot stress. For example, obviously me being Congolese, me having a Jamaican friend, we have lots of differences, but we have also lots of similarities. Our similarities should bring us, our differences should bring us together just as our similarities do, because there's something so beautiful about embracing people's cultures, about, oh, what's that called? What's this? What's that? Oh, what traditions do you have in your culture, in your country? What language do you speak? Just knowing and being aware that we may be different, but ultimately that is not a bad thing, and that can definitely be embraced and be used to bring us together. It's things like Carnival, for example, where you see all groups of people going, or like Black Pride, where you see all groups of people going, and it's like we all come together, we all celebrate, whether it's Pride or whether it's Carnival, and you should know the history and the meanings behind it, and you should go together and just be aware and I think once we tackle those issues within the Black community, like homophobia, transphobia, etc., and embracing each other's differences and not seeing that as a barrier, then we can really and truly help ourselves. Because if we can't even unite ourselves within our own community, then how can we force other people to want to unite with us or want to, you know, I don't want to say take us seriously because that sounds kind of dumb, but I can't find the right word. But basically, if we come together as a Black community, it can be very, very powerful and very impactful. And I think that's something that we should all strive to do.
I can't clip my fingers. Something I know.
Oh no.
I couldn't whistle or clip my fingers till I was like 8. I learned how to whistle by myself, but clip my fingers I've never been able to do. But like what you said there, and I want to touch on this because oh my gosh, in
yes, please.
It's always Nigerians versus Jamaica. I'm Grenadian, right? And Gambian.
Okay.
So I'm African and Caribbean, so I'm lucky, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to indulge in such foolishness, right? But what I do have to back myself on is the dark skins versus light skins foolishness. I have to back.
Oh my days, how can I forget colorism? Yes.
People always coming out as dark skins. It's so annoying. Like I'm happy being dark skinned personally, but and it's always dark skins versus light skins, Nigerians versus Jamaicans. Recently, I've seen what you said about the Ghanaian and jollof rice debate. I'm like, they're both paying. I don't care. They're both the plantain and plantain thing. When it's bantery, it's cool and funny and stuff like that. But then some people, as you say, get so offended, and you're just like,
yes,
it's just rice. I mean, it's just a banana. Honestly, it's just a banana. Like, why are we getting? But that's another thing that creates the divide within our community, and that's why I look at us and I'm so proud and happy to be a Black person. But then I just slap myself in the face sometimes because I'm like, you guys are going around, and this is what I said to one of the guys from my college. You're going around saying Black Lives Matter and all this kind of stuff, but then when you're with a dark skin, you're calling them black. Doesn't make any sense. When you see a Jamaican, you're cussing them, saying they're a stolen African and all that kind of stuff. I'm just like, God, like, seriously. I think because I do say to man, I'm not gonna lie, because I'm African and Caribbean, I do say to my Caribbean friends, you do need to understand that you are from Africa, but you are. You do need to keep that in the back of your mind and stop, because I don't like it when Caribbean say I'm not African, because you need to read some books and get your history back. But to be real with you, we still need to accept that yes, you are Caribbean, but you are African. Deep down, you are.
Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry. I was just going to interject and say that I think that it's a problem when you're trying to take away someone's like someone being Caribbean. You're like, you are African. You're trying to take away from their culture, their food, their heritage. I think that's definitely a negative, because you can't tell somebody what they are in terms of you need to strip away almost like you being Caribbean. That doesn't make sense. However, it's more of a thing where we know where you came from, and ultimately we are all from the same place, like from the same land. We are all a collective group of people, and you should be proud to be African. I think we've seen even in the past where people have tried to disassociate from their Africanness because they think it's like bush, or they think it's like, you know, like a negative thing. Obviously nowadays I feel like it's definitely embraced more, and I love to see it. I feel like artists like Burna Boy, for example, really make people realize how beautiful it is to be African and how positive it is. But yeah, I think it's just important to be careful with how you're telling people. Like, obviously you can say, yeah, we all came from Africa, ultimately we're all African, but don't try to strip away someone's Caribbean identity. I think that's very, very booky, and that shouldn't be happening. But Jamaican people should also know that we are all from the same land and we are all one. But embrace your culture, embrace your food. Just like in Africa, everyone has different cultures and food anyways. So it's not really a barrier, or well, it shouldn't be one. But yeah, I thought that was very important what you said. And also colorism, I forgot to mention that, but colorism is just a very toxic, disgusting thing, which wasn't even invented by us. Like, Black people didn't look in the mirror and think, oh, you're dark skin, you're light skin, you're better. They separated us. The white man separated us and made us think that the darker you are, the worse you were, or like being in the fields, obviously, sun, etc., your complexion would change compared to like being in the house where you would remain fairly lighter. So it's very, very weird. And it's like the Malcolm X speech where he says, who taught you to hate your skin? Who taught you to hate your nose? Who taught you to hate your lips? Because it wasn't us. We didn't teach ourselves to hate these things. The white man taught us to hate these things. And so when you go around saying, oh, like you were saying, disgusting words such as like blick, or you say, oh, drop lip or big nose, and say it as if it's a negative thing, you're just giving into white supremacy. And I feel like when you realize that, it will click and it'll make you deep that raw. I am not doing what I think I'm doing, or I'm not making light-hearted jokes. These are actually deep-rooted racist jokes that need to be deaded ASAP.
God. Like, I can't say that I've never said to someone that they had a droplet back in secondary school.
Oh no.
When you say stuff like this, I'm looking at myself and I'm like, I've said those things, you know. I've said to one of my friends as a joke, he has a drop lip. I'm not going to say the exact joke because people are going to laugh because it was actually a pretty good one, but I'm not going to say it. This is a serious topic, but yeah, like I'm even looking within at like Jonas, like how can you say that about one of your boys? Like it's kind of mad. You'd never, yeah, it's mad. But yeah, I just mad. But Divine, now I'm excited for this one. It's the final segment, and this is your top 3 rules for success. So what do you think your top 3 rules for success are?
Okay. My top 3 rules for success are dedication, resilience, and education. Because, okay, I'm first going to start with education. So in life, we're always learning, whether you're in school, outside of school, no matter where you are, in order to be able to do what you're doing and be good at what you're doing, you have to learn. And I think the words like education or just learning and stuff is very obviously heavily associated with school, but anyone can learn. A fashion student, for example, you have to be taught how to do something in order to know how to do it and be good at doing it so that you can succeed. And so I don't think education or learning and words like that should be only associated with school or academics. It should be associated with life. And so I think that's really important because in order to do something, you have to have learnt it from somebody, because you don't just come up with ideas from thin air, unless you have like a revelation and you think of something in your mind, but it's probably triggered off of something you've already seen and something you've already learnt. And therefore, I think it's very important to be constantly educating yourself, whether that's through reading, watching movies, going to school, taking on a trade. For example, I'm someone who loves language learning. I think there's something so beautiful about being able to communicate with different people. And so when I'm learning a language, it's almost powerful. It makes you feel as if you are doing something impactful, something positive, obviously. And so it's really nice. And then I would say resilience, because if you get knocked down and you just stay down, you're not going to be able to get to where you want to be. You have to have resilience instilled in you. You have to know that even if this doesn't work next time, but in the name of Jesus, it will work. Because like so many famous people or so many impactful, influential people had times where they felt as if they would never succeed. They had times where they were being knocked down. So many models that we see now, runway models that are so impactful and wealthy and influential, had been turned down by like 17, 40 different casting agencies. Do you know what I mean? So it should never be a barrier. And one person's no will be another person's yes. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know if it was J.K. Rowling. I think it was J.K. Rowling. Is she the Harry Potter? Yes. Sorry, I've never read Harry Potter books. I never watched the movies. Please don't come at me. Nonetheless, I think it was her who went to someone who to like obviously say, oh, I have Harry Potter, this idea, blah, blah, blah. And they said, no, this is not going to go anywhere. We don't want this. The biggest mistake of their lives, literally, because Harry Potter, whether or not you've watched it or read it, you know about it, especially being British, you know about Harry Potter. It's almost impossible to not, obviously depending on age, but to not know about Harry Potter. And so it's a thing where even if one time or thousands of times, hundreds of times, you get no, because I know that from applying to jobs right now. Hey, it's been difficult. Even simple, you know, supermarkets, barista jobs, the amount of times I've had sorry, but it's not going any further, sorry, but da, 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 da. But we just have to move. We have to just keep on going, keep applying, keep trying, keep getting up, even when you feel as if you have nothing left within you. Take a break if you need to. Focus on yourself, rewind, you know, refocus, and then go back and try again. And then I would say dedication, because if you're not dedicated to something, you're not going to do it. I was going to say motivation, but motivation comes in and out. I think dedication, is more powerful than motivation, because motivation isn't always going to be there. For example, with working out, I tend to like working out, like exercising. However, sometimes I'm just not motivated to do it. But because I'm dedicated to getting stronger, to reaching a certain physical level, it's like, okay, I'm going to have to do it. Even if I don't feel motivated right now, because I'm dedicated to the end result, I'm going to get back up. I'm going to try to do it. I'm going to keep going. And so it's worth it, because, yeah, that's one big thing. A lot of people may say motivation, but motivation, it's not always there. Sometimes you don't feel motivated. Sometimes you're not bothered to do it. But as long as you're dedicated, you're resilient, and you stay educated. And again, I want to stress that's not just the traditional way of educating yourself through like school or like the education system. It can be through life. Then you will succeed. Yeah.
That's an amazing top 3 with success. And I want to touch on, because I know you got to go soon, but I want to quickly touch on the resilience part, because a lot of people see me today and think, oh yeah, this Jonas, like, he's doing so much, he's doing all this kind of stuff. That wasn't always the case, man. When I started my career, I remember I was obviously given 100% where I'd go and stuff like that. Well, it took a while at first, because I was in rooms with people way older than me, so it was quite difficult at first. But then after a while, well, it took like, so I joined one thing when I just finished school, and because I was still a school kid and I was with elders, it was a bit weird. So I was a bit, I wouldn't go out to talk, but I'd talk when people would ask me to speak. But then when I got to September, so somewhere after GCSE September, which was a few months after I left school anyway, I was like, let me just get involved. Let me just speak up and stuff like that, right? Because I'd speak up in other things I did prior to this, like in year 10, a couple things I did, but it wasn't that consistent, right? So I remember when I was getting top grades in college, but I was just like, this ain't for me, man. I don't want to be here, man. I want to get an apprenticeship. When I was 17. And so many people told me, don't do that. Do you want to be known as Jonas, the college dropout, and all this stuff? People were telling me, don't do it. You're not ready to work. And I'd go to apprenticeship meetings. Like, I'd legit, guys, actually, if you want to do this, you can do it. But I'm not telling you to do it or not do it. But I used to like bunk lessons in college to go to apprenticeship meetings. So I'd go all the way up to Central to meetings, like dressed up, suited and booted and stuff. And I had it wasn't that many rejections, it was like 9 or 10 rejections, but they would be due to reasons like, we're going for someone with a little more experience than you. We see you in a more role. We know someone that's a bit more suitable. And every time I'd get closer and closer to getting that job, whether it was through assessment centers, whether it was more than one interview, all this kind of stuff like that. And for 9-10 months, I was getting rejected. And I had to keep going to college, which I hated. And it was so painful going in, because also my peers, some of the peers in there were just kind of toxic, and I hated it. And then my college, due to me bunking all the time, my college wanted to kick me out, because they were like, your attendance isn't good enough. So by the end of the year, you need to get much attendance. And my attendance was about 69% in end of February. And by June, I had to get 90%. So that was really hard to get. And I had to keep bunking to go to interviews, and I kept getting rejected. So I had to keep taking that risk. But by the end, my mum said to me in summer, if you don't get a job in 2 weeks, you're going back to college. And by the way, I was getting top grades, but then I just stopped caring. So I got a pass, right, in my exam. I don't know how I even passed year 12. I passed it because I wasn't paying attention to anything. But so I could have gone back because they accepted me to come back and said, Jonas, you got enough to come back some way, somehow. But within 2 weeks, just about, I got a job in a school. And then after that, I got offered a job in a law firm. But I took the job at the school already. So guys, I'm telling you, I was getting rejected for time. This was only 2019. But now I'm able to do what I do and all this stuff. And it was due to resilience, because it may have been tough, but I got through it. And I know loads of people that are looking for jobs just like yourself, Divine. And I'm not here to give you guys advice because you guys know this already, but this is to the people that may be listening that don't have a lot of faith and think, oh, this is tough, I'm struggling, It was extremely tough for me going through that experience and trying to get a job when I needed a job, especially to support my mother at home with the finances and stuff as well. And I never ever thought to myself, I'm not going to do this. I always thought, I always woke up the next day and said, I'm one day closer to getting that apprenticeship. I'm one day closer. I used to come to college and be like, I'm one day closer to not having to come here anymore. And when I got that phone call a few weeks before college started again for year 13, and they said, Jonas, I'm delighted to offer you the job. That was a feeling that was one of the best days of my life. It was a feeling that you just can't buy those feelings, guys. So that's why being resilient is important as well, because it gives you these kind of experiences. And due to that, and also the bullying and other stuff I had when I was younger, and crazy stuff that happened when I was younger, I'm very, very thick-skinned due to this. So at first, when I'd get rejected, I'd be like, oh, come on, man. I'd be pissed, obviously. I'd be upset. But then it got to about 5 or 6 rejections where I was just like, okay, cool, fine. It's time to apply for more jobs. But that's just it, man. That's just it. Cool. But yeah, Divine, thank you so much for coming on the episode regardless. Is there anything you'd like to say before we end?
Yes. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. It's been really, really nice to be here to just answer questions and hopefully just shed light on some things I do and my opinions and stuff. And yeah, I hope that you got something away from this podcast, even if it was just purely to entertain. Maybe you just needed the motivation right now, but remember, motivation can sometimes be temporary, so dedicate yourself to your goals. And yeah, it's just been really, really nice, and I hope it's positively impacted somebody today, even if it's just one person, even if it's every single person watching. Incredible. And I'm just delighted to have been here with Jonas, who is amazing. I think obviously it's good that you big up other people, but we need to big you up as well and say how amazing you are, how encouraging you are, and how impactful everything you do is, and how it's just amazing to see young Black men really and truly dedicating themselves to such important goals and such important projects. So thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this, and thank you to everybody listening. I hope you really enjoyed.
I definitely gained and enjoyed this, and thank you for coming on, Divine. Tell the people your socials. They've got to connect with you, you know.
Of course, come through and connect with me. So my TikTok is Oxford Divine. It's just a nickname, nothing to do with the city Oxford, nothing to do with the school, just to put it out there because I always get questions. So Oxford Divine with 1 D for the Oxford, and Divine, DIVINE. And then on my Instagram, my main Instagram is x.divine.x. It looks symmetrical, so I chose it. And my activism page is Divine X Activism. The same for Twitter, Divine X Activism. Be sure to also follow the Mental Health Charter at the Mental Health Charter, an organisation that I volunteer with. And just to put it out there, I'm from Greenwich, the best borough in London. I just have to put it out there. And yeah, agree to disagree, but it's my opinion.
Cool, amazing. Thank you so much for coming on, Divine. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
Bye.
Put your mind on the map, eyes on the prize. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.